From the heart of your nation's capital to the shores of the motherland, this is Cotton's Patriot Report. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to my global audience. Walter Cotton back at you again with another installment of my Patriot Report. Let me start the broadcast off by giving you guys a quick update for those of you who have not gotten the memo yet. MBDA found the need to extend the grant deadline date. We thought that thing was going nuclear yesterday on the 28th of February, but apparently because of some glitches, right, some challenges that some individuals had with the system, had navigating through the grant.gov environment. They were not able to get their information populated, so MBDA both put the instructions on how you effectively navigate through that system on their website, as well as, at the end of the date, drum roll please, extending the date through to March 10th. So for those of you who were clutching the pearls last night, you have some additional time to go ahead and get that grant response in so you can get a piece of that couple hundred, or should I say that $100 million that MBDA is putting out there on the street. But during today's broadcast, I want to make a little bit of a pivot, right? I want to make a pivot back into what I like to call home base, right? My comfort zone. And want to talk to you about the kinds of things that we can do to support our historically Black colleges and universities. And what you see coming up on the screen behind you was a presentation that I delivered at the 2019 HBCU week. That was during the 2019 Congressional Black Caucus week, to the presidents of our HBCUs and minority institutions. Those that were there and would give me the ear to listen, I told them the importance, the viability of adding federal contracting to their portfolio. And I talked to them about the importance of federal contracting and its ability to create sustainability, to create a foundation of stability within those enterprises that could move them away from the brink of extinction. I did not have any idea that COVID and the kind of inflation that we're experiencing right now was going to rear its ugly head. And for those of you who are trying to figure out what I'm talking about, I'm going to put the excerpt at the end of this video so you can take a look at that there. Let me shut that down so you can pay attention to what I'm saying here, because today our historically Black colleges and universities are in a hurt locker, and they need all of the guns, lawyers, and extra ammunition that the diaspora can bring to help stabilize those communities. What I'm doing is I'm advocating that you join me in two specific efforts. One is an effort called HBCU by Association, which is an alumni-focused effort that my good friend Omar Muhammad is driving out of Morgan State University. And the other is a For HBCU initiative that my mentor is putting on the street. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that as we go through this broadcast, as we go through the delivery of this particular session. But that For HBCU initiative that my mentor is delivering is designed to close the gap in the area of acquisition and contracting knowledge for our HBCUs, removing the last bastion of challenge for them. But before we jump into that, right, I want to speak to my minority veterans that are out there. And you guys know who you are, right? You've met me on the advocacy trail, and we worked and sang Kumbaya as we moved that needle in contracting to just north of $19 billion. Well, our government needs us again today. It needs us again today because the president, as you know, if you've been paying any attention to me, made a little bit of a gaffe in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when he promised to increase spending for small disadvantaged businesses, including minority businesses, to 15%. One of the challenges that he did not take into consideration was the fact that there is no direct pathway to get those dollars into the hands of Black and brown people because of what I've told you in previous podcasts, right? The Adirondack case or the Rothy case, which made it constitutionally unviable for any federal agency to contemplate a direct contract award to minorities, specifically ethnic minorities. And so in order for the agencies to meet the needs of the goal that's being requested, that's being pursued, they have to go through a double count process. And one of the first communities that's up, one of the first communities that's most viable for that $100 million, I'm sorry, did I say million? I should have said $100 billion award that the president has thrown out there on the street is our service disabled veterans. Those service disabled veterans that wear my social uniform are the best choice to help our agencies and our president solve the hard problem. So I'm going to start a campaign to both educate you on how you help the government out as you help yourself out in the coming weeks. And I'm going to use this venue, this environment to get that information over to you. So I want you to get ready. I want you to get ready. I want you to get ready because it is coming your way. The other thing that I want to point your attention to is our need to embrace our HBCUs. Now, many of you may not know that I did not graduate from a historically Black college or university. In point of fact, I graduated from a majority institution. But back around 2015, I met a young lady by the name of Dean Joanne Rolls over at Medgar Evers College. And that relationship that we spawned caused me to adopt that institution as my surrogate historically Black college and university. And what you're seeing in the pictures behind me, which need to be adjusted. So I'm going to take a minute out to go ahead and adjust them so that they actually fit the screen. You are looking at the inaugural effort between the United Nations and the historically Black colleges and universities to create a MOU for international education of people from the diaspora as well as people from the continent. So I've kind of put my hat in the ring with Medgar Evers College, and we've done some pretty exciting things, as you guys know, with what we did with the graduates that left there. I'm going to be asking you to join me and my good friend Omar Muhammad as he endeavors to drive an effort that he is referring to as HBCU by association. And basically, this organization's mission is to revitalize the alumni of our historically Black colleges and universities and organize them into a force multiplier that puts us in a position to shore up those HBCUs that may be on economic life support because of inflation, right? Because of the changes in the economy and staffing requirements, or because of the need for them to pivot towards more in demand, let's use that language, programs that meet the needs of today's new customers. Our HBCUs and the alum from those institutions need to come together today in a way that they haven't done it before. And as a non-HBCU grad that has made a yeoman investment in a predominantly Black institution, I'm going to join my good friend Omar Muhammad as he launches this effort to expand the participation of HBCU alumni in those colleges and universities. The other element that I talked to you guys about a little bit earlier is my good friend Dan Gill's effort to drive his 4HBCU initiative. And what you see on the screen here is Dan's GoFundMe campaign, right, which is what he's using to come up with the funding necessary to justify him taking his decades of experience and a cadre of retired contracting officers, and I'm talking best in class, and marshal them together into a force multiplier that is going to be able to deliver to our HBCUs an asset that will allow them to more functionally participate in the federal contracting arena in a way that they haven't before. If you go out to the Thurgood Marshall Fund and you search HBCU, you search federal contracting, what you're going to find is a report that indicates that our majority universities are getting 43% of their appropriation from the federal contracting arena, while our HBCUs, even to this day, are getting less than 1% of what they are entitled to. My good buddy Dan and I, well, let me say Dan, because I'm just going to promote his effort, and as I've done all of these years, ride his coattails to success. They're putting together the guns, lawyers, extra ammunition, and force multiplier needed to ensure that our HBCUs have the opportunity to more functionally participate in the federal contracting arena in a way that they haven't done heretofore. So let me kind of net this up, or should I say knit this up into a nice package as I prepare to transition you to an excerpt from my presentation at the 2019 HBCU week. You have a 10-day extension to put your capital readiness proposal in with MBDA to grab a portion of that $100 million that they're putting on the street in the form of technical assistance. We have my good friend Omar Muhammad, who is launching a HBCU by Association initiative to vitalize the HBCU alumni and organize them, focus them into a force multiplier, dare I say weaponize them, so that they can assist our HBCUs in creating stability, buoyancy in these very difficult economic times. And, I'll be frank with you, right? All of our HBCUs are not going to survive this season. If you look at the reports that are coming out of the major rating agencies, they're talking about bellwether majority institutions not being able to withstand the challenges that are associated with today's economic times. And as a result of that, I'm pulling the emergency string. I'm saying to everyone that's within the sound of my voice that appreciates what our historically Black colleges and universities have done for those members of the diaspora, to get your feces amalgamated, to get out of the mustard so we can catch up, because nobody that is not wearing our social uniform is going to come to the rescue of those institutions like we should, especially those who are alumni, those who have benefited from the institution. And then the final component, and I'm going to go ahead and throw that back up on the screen here real quick, is my good buddy Dan Gill's effort to drive this 4HBCU initiative. The link to this effort that Dan has underway is in the description of this particular video. And the importance of it is, if Dan doesn't get the resources that he needs to initiate this thing, it's not going to happen. And what you're looking at there is a seasoned, when I say seasoned, I'm talking about top-notch professional, right? One of our patriarchs from the acquisition community who is coming out of retirement, folks. He's coming out of retirement specifically to help our HBCUs achieve the goal of expanding their stability through government contracting, which right now there's a little bit over $1.2 trillion available to help achieve that goal. And I'm going to ask you to support Dan as he goes through the process of justifying building out the foundation for creating this rising tide that will raise every HBCU in its wake. Well, folks, that's about all I wanted to share with you during this session. I think that I'm going to leave you now with some information from that presentation that I did at the 2019 HBCU week. Very, very germane. I think it is relevant to today's time. Give it a quick listen. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's go to the place that I meant to go to, which is here. Y'all give it a quick listen. Something else that my mama taught me. And my mama taught me that, baby, we don't air the family's dirty laundry in public. So I'm going to keep our dirty laundry to ourselves. But I am going to emphasize the fact that we are in a time of extremes, right? And some of the thinkers that I like to listen to, and one of them in particular is E.O. Wilson. And E.O. Wilson says in this time of extreme that we're in, right? Hey, how you doing? We find ourselves in a position where we're drowning in information while being starved for wisdom, right? And all you got to do is, right, turn on your television and surf up to the 1,200 channels of just yelling information, or log onto your computer, right, and go into Facebook or Instagram, right, or YouTube, and there's a whole plethora of people out there pushing information at you, but very few of them are pushing wisdom. E.O. Wilson also further suggests that the world of tomorrow is going to be run by synthesizers. And E.O. defines synthesizers as people, right, who can pull together the right information at the right time. And then they can think critically about that information. And this last sentence puzzled me for a while because of its ordering. And then can think critically about that information and can make important choices wisely. That sentence kind of puzzled me for a while because I know E.O., and I know that he chose those words for a specific reason. And from my limited understanding of business, I thought that what he was referring to, I thought that what he was warning us against is the epidemic of errors of omission that we see in our industry, right? And for those of you who don't know what errors of omission are, let me juxtapose those against errors of commission, right? The error of commission in business.
Now I'm at the bank with it. And for those that count me out, can see me counting up. Cause now I'm at the bank with it. And we don't even need a mouse. We keep on adding up. Cause now I'm at the bank with it. Ooh. That's 100 points. Maybe I gotta spit my thumb out, what you think? Cause now I'm at the bank with it. And for those that count me out, can see me counting up. Cause now I'm at the bank with it. And we don't even need a mouse. We keep on adding up. Cause now I'm at the bank with it. Ooh.
Institutional pattern of participating in errors of omission. Another error of omission that's legendary in business school, and we talk about this all the time. Welcome to the Ability to movement. You have one of three options. You can subscribe, request an invitation, or log in if you're a returning member.